Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios at the Haven, which is located in Hythe, Kent, southeast England, just a stone's throw from the English Channel. And we're here trying to vibrate regularly the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Shabda Brahma, the mature fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. The last things that the great sages in Naimisharanya heard from Sutta Goswami, after they had heard all of the Vedas and the Bhagavatam, the Purāṇas, then they finally became purified enough and they all became pure devotees by hearing the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Srila Sanatana Goswami praised the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in his Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Mahima Stotram. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhāgavata Purāṇa Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who is supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhuta dayin atini chochata kada hanamuncha gadachin mam premna rit kantajokspuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, we reached the 24th chapter of the 4th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The Lord Shiva is in the middle of singing his praises of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they are wonderful. We're starting with text 55. My dear Lord, pure devotional service is even difficult for liberated persons to discharge. But devotional service alone can satisfy you. Who will take to other processes of self-realization if he is actually serious about the perfection of life? Purport. The word satam refers to transcendentalists. There are three kinds of transcendentalists: the Jnani, Yogi, and Bhakta. Out of these three, the Bhakta is selected as the most suitable candidate to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is emphasized herein that only one who is outside devotional service would not engage in searching for the lotus feet of the Lord. Foolish people sometimes maintain that God may be attained in any way, either by karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and so on. But here it is clearly stated that it is impossible to obtain the mercy of the Lord by any means but bhakti yoga. The word duraradya is especially significant. It is very difficult to attain the lotus feet of the Lord by any method other than bhakti yoga. Text 56. Simply by expansion of his eyebrows, invincible time, personified, can immediately vanquish the entire universe. However, formidable time does not approach the devotee who has taken complete shelter at your lotus feet. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 10:34, it is said that the Lord, in the shape and form of death, destroys all a person's possessions. Mrityu sarva harash chaham. I am all-devouring death. The Lord, in the shape of death, takes away everything that is created by the conditioned soul. Everything in this material world is subject to perish in due course of time. However, all the strength of time cannot hamper the activities of a devotee. For a devotee takes complete shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. For this reason only is a devotee free from formidable time. All the activities of the karmis and jnanis, which have no touch of devotional service, are spoiled in due course of time. The material success of the karmis is destined to be destroyed. Similarly, the impersonal realization attained by the jnanis is also destroyed in due course of time. Aruya krichtrena padam padam tadat padantyado nadrita yushmad angrayaha. Bhagavatam 10:2-32. To say nothing of the karmis, the jnanis undergo severe austerities to attain the impersonal Brahmajyoti. But because they do not find the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down again into this material existence. Unless one is fully situated in unalloyed devotional service, there is no guarantee of liberation, even if one is elevated to the heavenly planets or to the impersonal Brahman effulgence. A devotee's achievement, however, is never lost by the influence of time. Even if a devotee cannot completely execute devotional service, in his next life he begins from the point where he left off. Such an opportunity is not given to the karmis and jnanis whose achievements are destroyed. The bhakta's achievement is never destroyed, for it goes on perpetually, be it complete or incomplete. This is the verdict of all Vedic literatures. Shuchinam Śrīmatamang edgehe yoga brasto vijayate. If one is unable to complete the process of bhakti yoga, he is given a chance in his next life to take birth in a pure family of devotees or in a rich family. In such families, a person can have a good opportunity to further progress in devotional service. When Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, was instructing his assistants, he told them not to approach the devotees. The devotees should be offered respect, he said, but do not go near them. Thus the devotees of the Lord are not under the jurisdiction of Yamaraj. Yamaraj is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he controls the death of every living entity. Yet he has nothing to do with the devotees. Simply by blinking his eyes, time personified can destroy the entire cosmic manifestation. But he has nothing to do with the devotee. In other words, devotional service which is rendered by the devotee in this lifetime can never be destroyed by time. Such spiritual assets remain unchanged, being beyond the influence of time. Text 57. If one by chance associates with a devotee, even for a fraction of a moment, he is no longer subject to attraction by the results of karma or jnana. What interest then can he have in the benedictions of the demigods, who are subject to the laws of birth and death? Purport. Out of three kinds of men, the karmis, jnanis, and bhaktas, the bhakta is described herein as the most exalted. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has sung, Kaivalyam Nadakaryate, Tridashapur, Akasha Pushpayate, Chaitanya Chandramrita. The word Kaivalya means to merge into the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the word Tridashapur refers to the heavenly planets, where the demigods live. Thus, for a devotee, Kaivalya Sukha, or merging into the existence of the Lord, is hellish, because the bhakta considers it suicidal to lose his individuality and merge into the effulgence of Brahman. A bhakta always wants to retain his individuality in order to render service to the Lord. Indeed, he considers promotion to the upper planetary systems to be no better than a will-o'-the-wisp. Temporary, material happiness holds no value for a devotee. The devotee is in such an exalted position that he is not interested in the actions of karma or jnana. The resultant actions of karma and jnana are so insignificant to a devotee situated on the transcendental platform that he is not in the least interested in them. Bhakti yoga is sufficient to give the bhakta all happiness. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.2.6, Yayatma supersediti. One can be fully satisfied simply by devotional service, and that is the result of association with a devotee. Without being blessed by a pure devotee, no one can be fully satisfied, nor can anyone understand the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 58. My dear Lord, your lotus feet are the cause of all auspicious things and the destroyer of all the contamination of sin. I therefore beg your Lordship to bless me by the association of your devotees, who are completely purified by worshipping your lotus feet, and who are so merciful upon the conditioned souls. I think that your real benediction will be to allow me to associate with such devotees. Purport. The Ganges water is celebrated as being able to eradicate all kinds of sinful reactions. In other words, When a person takes his bath in the Ganges, he becomes freed from all life's contaminations. The Ganges water is celebrated in this way because it emanates from the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, those who are directly in touch with the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who are absorbed in the chanting of His glories are freed from all material contamination. Such unalloyed devotees are able to show mercy to the common conditioned soul. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has sung that the devotees of Lord Chaitanya are so powerful that each one of them can deliver a universe. In other words, it is the business of devotees to preach the glories of the Lord and deliver all conditioned souls to the platform of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. Here the word Susattva means Shuddha Sattva, the transcendental stage beyond material goodness. By his exemplary prayers, Lord Shiva teaches us that our best course is to take shelter of Lord Vishnu and his Vaishnava devotees. Text 59. The devotee whose heart has been completely cleansed by the process of devotional service and who is favored by Bhakti Devi does not become bewildered by the external energy, which is just like a dark well. Being completely cleansed of all material contamination in this way, a devotee is able to understand very happily your name, fame, form, activities, and so on. Purport. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 3:25-25, Satang prasangan mama virya sambido bhavanti rit karna rasayana kataha taj joshanad ashapavarga vartmani shraddha ritir bhaktir anukramishati. Simply by the association of pure devotees, one can understand the transcendental name, fame, quality, and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has repeatedly said, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Lavamatra Sadhu Sange, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Madhya-lila 22:54. Simply by associating with a pure devotee, one becomes wonderfully advanced in Krishna consciousness. Sadhu Sangha, or association with a devotee, means always engaging in Krishna consciousness by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and by acting for Krishna. Specifically, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra purifies one, and this chanting is therefore recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Cheto Darpanamarjanam. By chanting the names of Krishna, the mirror of the heart is cleansed, and the devotee loses interest in everything external. When one is influenced by the external energy of the Lord, his heart is impure. When one's heart is not pure, he cannot see how things are related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Idang hi Vishwam Bhagavan Ivetaraha. Bhagavatam 1:5-20. He whose heart is purified can see that the whole cosmic manifestation is but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he whose heart is contaminated sees things differently. Therefore, by satsanga, or association with devotees, one becomes perfectly pure in heart. One who is pure in heart is never attracted by the external energy, which urges the individual soul to try to dominate material nature. The pure heart of a devotee is never disturbed when he executes devotional service in the form of hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on. In all, there are 9 processes one can follow in the execution of devotional service. In any case, a pure-hearted devotee is never disturbed. The Bhakti Yoga process must be carried out by avoiding the 10 offenses one can commit while chanting the Mahamantra, and the 64 offenses one can commit while worshipping the deity. When a devotee strictly follows the rules and regulations, Bhakti Devi becomes very much satisfied with him, and at that time he is never disturbed by anything material, anything external. A devotee is also called a muni. The word muni means thoughtful. A devotee is as thoughtful as a non-devotee is speculative. The non-devotee's speculation is impure, but a devotee's thoughts are pure. Lord Kapila and Shukadev Goswami are also called Muni, and Vyasadeva is addressed as Maha Muni. A devotee is addressed as Muni or thoughtful when he purely understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conclusion is that when one's heart is purified by the association of devotees and by the avoidance of the offenses committed when chanting and worshipping the Lord, the transcendental name, form, and activities of the Lord are revealed by the Lord. Text 60. My dear Lord, the impersonal Brahman spreads everywhere, like the sunshine or the sky. And that impersonal Brahman, which spreads throughout the universe and in which the entire universe is manifested, is you. Purport. In Vedic literature it is said that everything is Brahman and nothing else. The whole cosmic manifestation rests on the Brahman effulgence. The impersonalists, however, cannot understand how such a huge cosmic manifestation can rest on a person. Thus, this inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not understood by the impersonalists. Therefore, they are puzzled and always denying that the Absolute Truth is a person. This wrong impression is cleared by Lord Śiva himself, who says that the impersonal Brahman, which is spread all over the universe, is nothing but the Supreme Lord himself. Here it is clearly said that the Lord is spread everywhere, just like the sunshine, by virtue of this Brahman feature. This example is very easy to understand. All the planetary systems are resting upon the sunshine, yet the sunshine and the source of sunshine are aloof from the planetary manifestations. Similarly, the sky or air is spread everywhere. Air is within a pot, but it also touches filthy places and sanctified places alike. In any case, the sky is uncontaminated. The sunshine also touches filthy places and sanctified places, and both are actually produced by the sun. But in any case, the sun is aloof from all filthy things. Similarly, the Lord exists everywhere. There are pious things and impious things, but in the Shastras, pious things are described as the front of the Supreme Lord, whereas impious things are described as the back of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 9.4, the Lord clearly says, Maya tatamidang sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham te shavastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is created, is pervaded. Again, by me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. This verse of Bhagavad Gita explains that the Lord is spread everywhere by virtue of his Brahman feature. Everything rests in him, yet he is not there. The conclusion is that without bhakti yoga, without rendering devotional service to the Lord, even an impersonalist cannot understand the Brahma Tattva, the Brahman feature. In the Vedanta Sutra it is stated, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. This means that Brahman, Paramatma, or Parabrahman should be understood. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam also, the Absolute Truth is described as the one without a second. But he is realized in three features: impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate issue. And in this verse, Lord Shiva confirms that ultimately the Absolute Truth is a person. He clearly says, Tat Tvam Brahmapadam Jyotir Akasham Eva Vistritam. Here is a common example. A successful businessman may have many factories and offices, and everything rests on his order. If someone says that the entire business rests on such and such person, it does not mean that the person is bearing all the factories and offices on his head. Rather, it is understood that by his brain or his energetic expansion, the business is running without interruption. Similarly, it is the brain and energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that carry on the complete manifestation of the material and spiritual worlds. The philosophy of monism, explained here very clearly, adjusts itself to the fact that the supreme source of all energy is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is described very clearly. It is also stated how the impersonal feature of Krishna can be understood. Rasoham apsakonteya prabhasmi shashishurya yoho pranavak sarvavedeshu shabdike paurusham nrishu. O son of Kunti, Arjuna, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and the ability in man. In this way, Krishna can be understood as the mystic power in everything. Text 61. My dear Lord, you have manifold energies, and these energies are manifested in manifold forms. With such energies, you have also created this cosmic manifestation. And although you maintain it as it is, and although you maintain it as if it were permanent, you ultimately annihilate it. Although you are never disturbed by such changes and alterations, the living entities are disturbed by them. And therefore, they find the cosmic manifestation to be different or separated from you. My Lord, you are always independent, and I can clearly see this fact. Purport. It is clearly explained that Lord Krishna has multi-energies, which can be grouped into three, namely the external energy, the internal energy, and the marginal energy. There are also different cosmic manifestations, namely the spiritual world and the material world, as well as different types of living entities. Some living entities are conditioned and others are eternally free. The eternally free living entities are called Nitya Mukta, or they never come in contact with the material energy. However, some living entities are conditioned in this material world, and thus they think themselves separated from the Supreme Lord. Due to their contact with the material energy, their existence is always troublesome. Being always in distress, the conditioned soul considers the material energy to be very much disturbing. This fact is explained by a Vaishnava Kavi or poet. Krishna Buli Se Jiva Anadi Bahirmukha Atayeva Maya Tare Deya Sangsara Dukkha. When the living entity forgets the Supreme Lord and wants to enjoy himself independently, imitating the Supreme Lord, he is captured by the false notion that he is the enjoyer and is separated from the Supreme Lord. This material energy is therefore very much troublesome to the spiritual energy, the living entity. But the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. Indeed, for the Supreme Lord, both material and spiritual energy are the same. In this verse, Lord Shiva explains that the material energy is never troublesome to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is always independent, but because the living entities are not independent, due to their false idea of becoming independently happy, the material energy is troublesome. Consequently, the material energy creates differentiation. Because the Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand this, they want to be relieved from the material energy. However, because a Vaishnava philosopher is in full knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he finds no disturbance even in the material world, the material energy. This is because he knows how to utilize the material energy for the service of the Lord. In the government, the criminal department and civil department may appear different in the eyes of the citizens, but in the eyes of the government, both departments are one and the same. The criminal department is troublesome for the criminal, but not for the obedient citizen. Similarly, this material energy is troublesome for the conditioned soul, but it has nothing to do with the liberated souls who are engaged in the service of the Lord. Although the Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, created the whole cosmic manifestation, simply, I'll read that again, excuse. Through the Purusha avatar, Mahavishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, created the whole cosmic manifestation. Simply by breathing out all the universes, the Lord creates and maintains the cosmic manifestation as Lord Vishnu. Then, as Sankarsana, he annihilates the cosmic manifestation. Yet despite the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the cosmos, the Lord is not affected. The various activities of the Lord must be very disturbing to the tiny living entities. But since the Lord is supremely great, he is never affected. Lord Shiva, or any other pure devotee, can see this clearly without being blinded by Bheda Buddhi or differentiation. For a devotee, the Lord is the Supreme Spirit Soul. Since he is supremely powerful, his various powers are also spiritual. For a devotee, there is nothing material, for material existence only means forgetfulness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 62. My dear Lord, your universal form consists of all 5 elements: the senses, mind, intelligence, false ego, which is material, and the Paramatma, your partial expansion, who is the director of everything. Yogis, other than the devotees, namely the Karma Yogi and Jnana Yogi, worship you by the respective actions in their respective positions. It is stated both in the Vedas and in the Shastras that are corollaries of the Vedas, and indeed everywhere, that it is only you who are to be worshipped. That is the expert version of all the Vedas. Purport. In a previous verse, Lord Shiva wanted to see the form of the Lord, which the devotees are always interested in. There are other forms of the Lord manifest in the material world, including Brahma and other demigods, and these are worshipped by materialistic persons. In the 2nd canto, 3rd chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it is stated that those who desire material benefits are recommended to worship different types of demigods. And in conclusion, the Bhagavatam recommends akama sarvakamo va moksha kama udara dihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Bhagavatam 2:3-10. The devotees, the jnanis, who were known as moksha kama, and the karmis, who were known as sarvakama, are all aspiring to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Even when one performs yagyas, as stated here, kriya kalapaihi, he should always remember that the demigods are but agents of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the worshipful Lord is Vishnu, Yagyeshwara. Thus, even when different demigods are worshipped in the Vedic and Tantric sacrifices, the actual goal of sacrifice is Lord Vishnu. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 9:23, it is said, Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shadayan vitaha tepimam eva kaunteya yajantya vidipurvakam. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. Thus the worshippers of various demigods also worship the Supreme Lord, but they do so against the regulative principles. The purpose of the regulative principles is to satisfy Lord Vishnu. In the Vishnu Purāṇa 3.8.9, the very same thing is confirmed. Varna Shama Charlavata Purushena Padak Puman Vishnur Aradyate Panta Nanyat Tat Doshakaranam. Here it is clearly mentioned that the karmi, jnani, or yogi, in fact, everyone, worships Lord Vishnu if he is actually expert in knowledge of the Vedas and Tantras. The word kovida is very significant, for it indicates the devotees of the Lord. Only the devotees know perfectly that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is all-pervading. Within the material energy, he is represented by the 5 material elements, as well as the mind, intelligence, and ego. He is also represented by another energy, the living entities, and all these manifestations in the spiritual and material world combined are but representations of the different energies of the Lord. The conclusion is that the Lord is one and that he has expanded in everything. This is understood by the Vedic version, Sarvam Kal Vidang Brahma. One who knows this concentrates all his energy in worshipping Lord Vishnu. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And that brings us to 7:45 in the evening. So we'll stop our reading here and start tomorrow at text 63. In the meantime, we'll wait patiently for the reflections, realizations of the assembled sages. Hare Krishna.
Sudevi Dasi says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Well, Sudevi Dasi, we have only one thing to say to you. Well, 2 words. Hare Krishna.
And this is from Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Yes, Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, and all the assembled sages, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. My humble obeisances to all the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your thoughtfulness and your sincere, regularity.
And this is from Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
Jai Guru Maharaj, blessed to see you while waiting at the airport gate.
I was wondering where you were, in the airport.
The internet is lagging, but any word I can hear is pure profit. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
And she also writes, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Tonight I noted this point. When one is influenced by the external energy, one's heart is not pure, and one cannot see how everything is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. End quote. Because of my many material attachments, I always need to hear about how these two, Maya and Krishna consciousness, are connected and how they relate to each other. Thank you for lifting the veil again and again.
Hare Krishna. And again I say, I'm just a peon trying to deliver the mail. But if I take any credit, it's that I don't change the words, I just read them. Trying to be transparent to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
This is from Anandamurti.
Yes, Anandamurti.
Dear Guru Maharaj and all assembled devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for today's readings.
Hare Krishna.
And this is from Bhaktin Maxine.
Yes, Bhaktin Maxine.
Hare Krishna, dearest Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for reading tonight. When Lord Shiva prays to see Krishna, as the devotees long to see him, does this mean the two-armed form of Krishna?
Say it again.
When Lord Shiva prays to see Krishna as the devotees long to see him, does this mean the two-armed form of Krishna?
Well, he purposefully worships Sankarsana, who is a four-armed form of Krishna, but he knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so I would say, logically and also due to the commentaries of Prabhupada, that yes, he's teaching them to worship Krishna.
And this is from Kurt Meyer.
But whether it's the two-armed form or the four-armed form, it's the same person. That's the point. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And this is Kurt?
Kurt Meyer.
Kurt Meyer. Well, Hare Krishna.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. You may not remember me, but I used to attend your classes in Denton, Texas, around 17 years ago.
Oh, I knew the name was familiar when as soon as I heard Kurt Meyer. I recognized the name, but I couldn't remember when.
I discovered these readings on Spotify just before Kartik, and I have been listening through the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. I just want to say thank you. Your voice soothes me and takes me back 20 years.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
This is from Subarao.
Subarao, Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for your daily readings. One of the greatest analogy for this Bhagavad Gita verse is given in 4:24:60. Quote, Mayata tamidang sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham te shravastita. By me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Quote. Another quote. 4:24:60. Here is a common example. A successful businessman may have many factories and offices, and everything rests on his order. If someone says that the entire business rests on such and such a person, it does not mean that the person is bearing all the factories and offices on his head. Rather, it is understood that by his brain or his energetic expansion, the business is running without interruption. Similarly, it is the brain and energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that carry on the complete manifestation of the material and spiritual worlds. Unquote. Thank you for giving your daily association.
Srila Prabhupada gives such practical examples, doesn't he? And analogies, so practical. It enables you to clearly see what Krishna is saying. Amazing. Simply amazing. Hare Krishna.
Daily readings, Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
This is from Bhakta Peter.
From Bhakta Peter, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
My favorite verse of tonight, 4:24:56. Quote, simply by expansion of his eyebrows, invincible time personified can immediately vanquish the entire universe. However, formidable time does not approach the devotee who has taken complete shelter at your lotus feet. Unquote. One question. In one purport we heard that one may take birth in a rich family in their next life so that they can more easily take to devotional service in his next life, if for whatever reason he doesn't go back home in this life. But within the story of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, Prabhupada explains that the life of a rich man is rife with material temptations. He quotes, as a rich man's son often becomes addicted to wine and women, so these two sons of Kuvera were also addicted to wine and sex. Unquote. It seems like being born in a wealthy family could be equally detrimental. Is it beneficial?
Well, it's like this. The devotional service that you do is eternal. And if you don't complete it, then you have to take another birth. And depending on how much and the quality of your devotional service, you will take different births. The best birth is in the family of devotees, where you get trained from the very beginning. But you may not have advanced that much, so you may take birth in a wealthy mercantile family. Now, in a wealthy mercantile family, especially if they're devotees, or if they're in India especially, the opportunity to have time to investigate, because you will have a natural tendency to investigate, and you'll get a facility to do that. But that doesn't mean that the dangers of material existence are still not there. Therefore, we're recommended to finish it up in this life, not come back in another life. Unless Krishna wants you to come back and preach. And then you tolerate so many things, just like Prabhupada tolerated so many things to preach this movement all over the world. So that's it. The essence is that devotional service is eternal. Whatever you've done as a devotee is eternal. You'll never lose it. But yes, if you get birth in a rich family, there's still the danger of material getting entangled by the material, attracted by the material energy. Generally, people who are wealthy in a spiritual community or civilization are pious. In the Kali Yuga, it's not like that. In Kali Yuga, the piety is lost. So especially in the Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya has made it accessible, the perfection of devotional service, just by chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offense. Therefore, we should make a strenuous effort not to make offenses against the holy name. Hare Krishna. Then we can go back to Godhead in this lifetime.
And this is from Daityari Hari.
Yes, Daityari Hari. I wonder where you all were.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Tonight we heard at the end of the purport to text 61, quote, "For a devotee there is nothing material, for material existence only means forgetfulness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Unquote. I'd really like to be able to see everything I do in relation to pleasing Krishna, in spite of having a conditioned mind that's still programmed to go in the opposite direction, unless I make a very deliberate effort to practice devotional service. But it's always good to be reminded that material and spiritual life has all to do with our state of consciousness, how we see the world.
Yes, this is real knowledge. Because, all the forms come from somewhere. They come from Krishna. They come from Krishna. This is what Lord Śiva is saying over and over again. We are so obligated, we're so obliged, beholding to Krishna for giving us everything that allows us to fulfill our desires in this material world. So by properly hearing and remembering these verses, we can actually see through that knowledge that everything is actually a transformation of one of Krishna's energies. That's why this analysis is always there in all the Shastras. The analysis of Krishna's energies and how they combine together to make everything in this material world. So that's what it means to see that. That's why the devotees are not disturbed by the material energy. because they see that it is Krishna fulfilling the desires of the material, the conditioned souls, and also helping us in different ways. Sometimes by taking things away, sometimes providing all facilities. So we are dependent on Krishna for everything. Therefore, if we don't appreciate that and try to give back to Him, try to repay Him for that debt, then we're ingrates. And the mentality of an ingrate is very difficult to appreciate. It's not giving, it's not flexible, it's selfish, the ingrate. And if someone gives you something, just a gift out of the blue, something wonderful, then you should feel grateful. And if you don't, then that person will not be so likely to give you a gift in the future. So Krishna is a person. He has all the qualities that we have. So if he sees that we're ignoring him, then he'll allow us to ignore him. But the devotees, they never forget. The pure devotees never forget. And therefore they connect everything that they have as belonging to Krishna and meaning to be used in Krishna's service. Then we can see Krishna everywhere. Hare Krishna.
Subbarao.
Yes, Subbarao.
424.59. A devotee is also called a muni. The word muni means thoughtful. A devotee is as thoughtful as a non-devotee is speculative. The non-devotee's speculation is impure, but a devotee's thoughts are pure. Lord Kapila and Shukadev Goswami are also called muni, and Vyasadeva is addressed as Mahamuni. A devotee is addressed as muni or thoughtful when he purely understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conclusion is that when one's heart is purified by the association of devotees and by the avoidance of the offenses committed when chanting and worshipping the Lord, the transcendental name, form, and activities of the Lord are revealed by the Lord. Unquote. Association helps one to get elevated. One has to be offenseless in chanting and deity service.
Yes, and then when we hear the Bhagavatam in that consciousness, then we see Krishna in the pages of the Bhagavatam. And then the Lord, when he sees that, he's in our hearts, and when he sees that, then he gives the understanding or the ability to understand the books. Hare Krishna.
Okay, this is from Koladvipati.
Koladvipati.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai.
To my misfortune, I couldn't focus so much today as I was quite tired. We just had thousands of books delivered to our center today in preparation for the marathon, and we had to carry them up lots of stairs.
Whoa.
One thing that stood out in the readings was the prayer to be in the association of devotees. Quote, My dear Lord, your lotus feet are the cause of all auspicious things and the destroyer of all the contamination of sin. I therefore beg your Lordship to bless me by the association of your devotees, who are completely purified by worshipping your lotus feet, and who are so merciful upon the conditioned souls. I think that your real benediction will be to allow me to associate with such devotees.
Yes, that was a real gem. Thank you very much for extracting that, mining it and letting us see it again.
Makes me feel so grateful to be able to be with devotees every day. It's a priceless blessing.
Priceless gift, yes, matchless gift.
Especially hearing together like this every night with you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Yes, every time I sit down in this seat to do this, I feel like I'm at home. No matter what else is going on, whatever else I have to hear to solve problems and this and that and the other thing, counsel people, this and that and the other thing. But when we're here, hearing the Bhagavatam, pure transcendental sound, it makes everything meaningful, worth it. Hare Krishna.
This is from Anandamurti.
Yes, Anandamurti.
This reading gives me the supreme truth. Text 60. Quote, My dear Lord, the impersonal Brahman spreads everywhere, like the sunshine or the sky, and that impersonal Brahman which spreads throughout the universe, and in which the entire universe is manifested, is you. This is another quote. If someone says that the entire business rests on such and such a person, it does not mean that the person is bearing all the factories and offices on his head. Rather, it is understood that by his brain or his energetic expansion, the business is running without interruption. Similarly, it is the brain and energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that carry on the complete manifestation of the material and spiritual worlds. Unquote. This example is nice. Yesterday, 2 small books distributed during lunch and after duty. Om Tat Sat.
Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Your steadiness is exemplary and inspiring all of us. Thank you so much, Anandamurti Devidasi. Well, you've all done it again. You've done such wonderful reflections. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. And see you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same topic, as Lord Shiva. His glorification of Krishna is so deep, isn't it? So let's hear more tomorrow. Hare Krishna.